Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about the one thing that's been secretly holding you back without you even realizing it. You're lying in bed. It's 3 in the morning. And you're replaying that moment again. The moment he said he'd call. The moment he seemed so interested. The moment you thought, finally, someone who gets it. But then the text never came. Or it came 3 days later with some excuse that felt hollow. And you're wondering what you did wrong. Here's what I know. If you're watching this right now, there's a good chance you've been in more than one relationship where you felt like you were giving everything and getting breadcrumbs in return. Where you bent over backwards to be understanding, to be patient, to be low maintenance. And somewhere along the way, you stopped recognizing yourself in the mirror because you'd become so small, so quiet about your own needs, that you forgot you were allowed to have them. Let me tell you something. This isn't a video about blaming yourself. It's not about what you should have done differently last time. This is about understanding something fundamental that nobody talks about. And it's this. The way people treat you is information. It's data. And most of us are terrible at reading that data because we've been trained to make excuses for it. I've worked with thousands of women over the past 18 years. Successful, intelligent, beautiful women. Women who could command a boardroom, raise children, build businesses, support their friends through hell. But when it came to their love lives, they were accepting treatment that they would never tolerate in any other area of their existence. And when I asked them why, do you know what they said? They said, "Matthew, I don't want to be too demanding. I don't want to scare him away. I don't want to seem needy." That word, needy. It's become this weapon that we use against ourselves. We've internalized this idea that having standards, having expectations, having basic human needs for respect and consistency makes us difficult. Let me be crystal clear about something. Wanting someone to show up consistently is not needy. Wanting someone to respect your time is not needy. Wanting someone to treat you with basic human decency is not needy. Those are called standards. And the moment we confuse standards with being needy is the moment we give away our power. There's a study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology that looked at relationship dynamics. And what they found was fascinating. They found that people who consistently compromised their own needs in relationships didn't just end up unhappy. They ended up attracting partners who were less invested. Because here's the psychology behind it. When you demonstrate through your behavior that your needs are negotiable, you teach people that you're negotiable. You become optional. And optional is exactly how you've been feeling. But here's what's even more important to understand. This isn't about him. I know right now you're thinking about that specific person who didn't text back, who made plans and canceled, who made you feel like you were asking for too much when you were asking for the bare minimum. But this is bigger than him. This is about a pattern. And patterns don't change until we understand what's driving them. I want to share something personal with you. When I was 26 years old, I was coaching a woman who was brilliant. She was a doctor. She spoke 4 languages. She had this laugh that could light up a room. And she came to me because she kept ending up with men who treated her like she was lucky to have their attention. Men who would disappear for days and then show up with some charming explanation. Men who made her feel crazy for wanting basic consistency. And I remember asking her, "When did you first start believing that you had to earn love by being convenient?" And she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't know, but I can't remember a time when I didn't believe it." That conversation changed everything for me. Because I realized that so many of us are walking around with this deep, unconscious belief that love is something we have to earn through perfect behavior. That if we can just be patient enough, understanding enough, easy enough, then finally we'll be worthy of someone's consistent effort. But that's not how love works. That's not how healthy relationships work. That's how you end up feeling like you're not enough no matter what you do. Let me give you some strategies. Real, practical things you can start doing today. Not to manipulate someone into treating you better, but to reclaim your sense of self. To remember that your worth isn't determined by how someone else shows up. First strategy. Start tracking behavior, not promises. I know this sounds unromantic, but here's the truth. Words are easy. Anyone can say they're going to call. Anyone can say they care. Anyone can say they want something real. Behavior is what matters. So here's what I want you to do. For the next 2 weeks, I want you to write down what someone does, not what they say. If he says he's going to call and doesn't, write that down. If he makes plans and cancels at the last minute, write that down. If he's incredibly attentive for 3 days and then disappears for a week, write that down. Because patterns become undeniable when you see them on paper. And when you see them on paper, it becomes a lot harder to make excuses for them. Second strategy. Practice saying what you want without apologizing for it. This is where so many of us get tripped up. We've been so conditioned to be agreeable that when we finally do express a need, we drown it in apologies. I'm sorry, but I was just wondering if maybe possibly we could... Stop. Here's what I want you to practice. I'd love to see you this weekend. When works for you? That's it. No apology. No hedging. No making yourself smaller. Just a clear, direct statement of what you want. Because clear communication is attractive. Confidence is attractive. Apologizing for your existence is not. Third strategy, and this one is crucial. Create space for someone to show you who they are. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is rushing in to fill every silence, smooth over every disappointment, make excuses for every missed opportunity. And I get it. When you like someone, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But here's what happens when you do that too quickly. You rob them of the opportunity to step up. If he forgets to text you back and you immediately follow up with 3 more texts, you've just told him that you'll do all the work. If he cancels plans and you immediately suggest 3 other times, you've just told him that his time is more valuable than yours. Create space. Let him come to you. Let him make it right. And if he doesn't, that's information too. Fourth strategy. Get honest about your non-negotiables before you need them. Most of us don't know what our deal breakers are until we're already emotionally invested. And by that point, we've convinced ourselves that love means accepting anything. So I want you to sit down right now, today, and write a list. What are your actual deal breakers? Is it emotional availability? Is it someone who follows through on what they say? Write them down. Because when you know what your non-negotiables are, you can recognize when someone is violating them a lot earlier in the process, and you can walk away before you're in too deep. Fifth strategy. Remember that walking away is not giving up on love. It's honoring yourself. This is the one that people resist the most. Because we've been told that real love requires sacrifice. That real love means staying when things get hard. That real love is about never giving up. And yes, relationships require effort. Yes, love means showing up even when it's not convenient. But there's a difference between working through challenges in a relationship where both people are equally invested and bending yourself into a pretzel for someone who fundamentally doesn't see your value. Walking away from the wrong person isn't giving up on love. It's making room for the right person. Now, I want to address something that might be coming up for you right now. You might be thinking, Matthew, this all sounds great in theory, but what if I'm too picky? What if my standards are too high? What if I'm the problem? Let me tell you something. The fact that you're even asking that question tells me you're probably not the problem. Because the people who actually have unreasonable standards, they're not worried about whether their standards are too high. They're convinced everyone else is the problem. The fact that you're questioning yourself, that you're wondering if you're asking for too much, that you're worried about being difficult, tells me that you've probably been accepting far less than you deserve for far too long. I had a client once who came to me and said, Matthew, I think I might be sabotaging my relationships. Every time things start to get serious, I find myself pulling away. And I asked her to tell me about the last person she pulled away from. And she described this man who would go days without texting, who would make plans and then change them at the last minute, who would tell her she was being dramatic when she expressed that she wanted more consistency. And I looked at her and I said, you're not sabotaging your relationships. You're protecting yourself from someone who's showing you through his actions that he's not available for what you want. See, we've been taught to label self-protection as self-sabotage. We've been taught that if we're not willing to wait indefinitely for someone to maybe possibly show up for us, then we're the ones with the problem. And that's backwards. Recognizing that someone's behavior doesn't align with your needs isn't self-sabotage. It's self-awareness. And self-awareness is the first step toward actually getting what you want. Here's something else I need you to understand. The right person for you won't make you feel like you're asking for too much. Let me say that again because it's important. The right person for you won't make you feel like you're asking for too much. Will there be moments of miscommunication? Of course. Will there be times when you need to express your needs more clearly? Absolutely. But in a healthy relationship, when you express a need, the response isn't "you're being too demanding." The response is, "I didn't realize you felt that way. Let me do better." I want you to think about the people in your life who genuinely care about you. Your best friend, your sister, your colleague who always has your back. When you tell them something they did hurt your feelings, what's their response? They apologize. They want to understand. They want to make it right. They don't make you feel like you're the problem for having feelings. Why on earth would you accept less than that from someone you're considering building a life with? There's this concept in psychology called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. You don't win every time, but every once in a while, you get a reward. And that unpredictable reward schedule is more addictive than consistent rewards. Because your brain is constantly chasing that high, that moment when you finally feel chosen, finally feel valued. And that's what happens in these relationships where someone treats you well occasionally, but inconsistently. You get addicted to the chase. You get addicted to the moments when they do show up. And you convince yourself that if you can just figure out the right formula, if you can just be patient enough, understanding enough, perfect enough, you'll get that reward consistently. But here's the truth. Healthy love isn't a slot machine. It's not supposed to feel like you're constantly gambling on whether someone will show up for you today. Healthy love is boring in the best way. It's consistent. It's predictable. It's someone who does what they say they're going to do. And I know that might sound less exciting than the drama of wondering whether he'll text back. But I promise you, once you experience the peace of being with someone who actually shows up, you'll never want to go back to that chaos again. So what do you do if you're in this pattern right now? What do you do if you're already invested in someone who's making you feel this way? First, you get honest with yourself. And I mean really honest. Not the version where you convince yourself that he's just busy or going through a hard time or not ready yet, but the version where you look at his actual behavior and ask yourself, if my best friend described this situation to me, what would I tell her? And then, you make a decision. Because here's the thing about patterns. They don't break themselves. You can't wait for someone to magically start treating you better while you continue to accept treatment that makes you feel small. Change requires action. And sometimes that action is hard. Sometimes it means having a conversation where you clearly express what you need and giving someone the opportunity to step up. And sometimes it means walking away, because the gap between what you need and what they're capable of giving is too wide to bridge. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that walking away is easy. It's not. Even when you know it's the right decision, even when you can see clearly that someone isn't treating you the way you deserve, it's still hard. Because you see the potential. You see the person they could be if they just tried a little harder. You see the moments when they were kind, when they were present, when you felt like you finally had something real. And it's tempting to hold on to those moments and convince yourself that they're the truth and everything else is the exception. But I need you to flip that script. The moments when someone treats you well, those aren't the prize you're trying to win by being good enough. Those are the baseline. That should be how you're treated all the time, not just when it's convenient for them. And if someone can't consistently show up for you with basic respect, basic consideration, basic human decency, then they're not your person. And that's okay. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means they're not capable of giving you what you need. And that's on them, not on you. I want to leave you with this. Your worth is not determined by whether someone sees it. Read that again. Your worth is not determined by whether someone sees it. You could be the most incredible person in the world, and some people still won't see your value. And that's not because you're lacking something. It's because they're not looking. Or they're not ready. Or they're so caught up in their own stuff that they can't see past it. But none of that is a reflection of who you are. You deserve someone who doesn't make you wonder. Who doesn't make you question whether you're too much or not enough. Who doesn't make you feel like you have to earn their attention or their consistency or their respect. You deserve someone who sees your value clearly and treats you accordingly. Not occasionally. Not when it's convenient. All the time. And until you meet that person, the most important thing you can do is treat yourself that way. Show yourself the consistency you're looking for from someone else. Show yourself the respect. Show yourself the care. Because when you do that, when you really internalize your own worth, something shifts. You stop accepting breadcrumbs. You stop making excuses for people who don't show up. You stop contorting yourself to fit into someone else's limited capacity. And you start creating space for someone who's actually ready to meet you where you are. That's the real transformation. Not changing yourself to be more acceptable to someone who doesn't value you, but remembering who you are and refusing to accept anything less than what you deserve. And I promise you, the moment you do that, everything changes. Not because you're suddenly perfect or because you've figured out some magic formula, but because you've remembered your own worth. And once you remember that, you stop giving your energy to people who don't see it, and you start saving it for someone who does. If this resonated with you, I want you to know you're not alone. Millions of women are going through the exact same thing, wondering if they're asking for too much, wondering if they're the problem, wondering if love is supposed to feel this hard. And the answer is no. Love is supposed to feel like coming home. It's supposed to feel like peace. It's supposed to feel like someone seeing you completely and choosing you anyway, not in spite of who you are, but because of it. So take a breath, give yourself some grace, and remember that the way forward isn't about becoming less. It's about remembering that you were always enough. You just forgot for a little while. And that's okay, because now you know. And knowing changes everything.